Okay, so I feel like for me, the way that I got over this feeling of it's not possible for me and it's possible for others is starting to realize that it was my eating disorder. If I were to make it into an entity, it was my eating disorder trying to protect itself. So it was my way of trying to protect my coping mechanism because I didn't trust myself enough to let that coping mechanism go. And it's much easier to believe that I'm the exception. This is chronic for me. It's much easier to believe that than it is to believe that there is possibility here, but I'm just choosing not to let go of the anxiety.
Well, so again, we come back to anxiety, this old friend. Um, the feeling, I'm going to start off with saying the feeling of anxiety in the body, the visceral feeling of it is very, very unpleasant and very, very scary. So when we consider that most people's anxiety, which morphs into an eating disorder, somewhere in that teenage period, actually can be tracked back. Anxiety that a child has to manage themselves for whatever reason without enough co-regulation is a very scary experience. So once I'm scared enough of that, I am not going to go back there no matter what, right? So in my franticness, in my desperation, I reached out and I got hold of an eating disorder. And it was very effective, let me tell you, right? So if I hold on to the eating disorder, this is what I got in my hand, okay? Why am I going to give this up when I don't trust anybody or anything else? So a lot of defenses get created around it. There's a lot of narrative around it. I start developing a whole language around it.
Right.
I have ways of, and so what I'm actually defending is myself, right? I am defending myself. I am in a weird way taking care of myself from feeling that terrible feeling again. So if I count my carrots, if I look at the numbers, if I look at the whatever, the numbers are telling me I am safe. And now I'm being asked by somebody, I'm being told that this is the wrong way. I have crafted this whole formula with a set of rules, and I'm being told this all is, in a corner of my brain, I know that this is not working for me, right? But I'm afraid, I sometimes think about monkey bars, right? You kind of have to, I have to let go, or maybe some gymnasts who, there's a moment when you're up in the air when you're not holding anything.
Yeah, I can picture
and then you kind of have to let go and trust, right? So all those things like leap and the net will appear. I actually don't, I wouldn't leap because I don't know if the net will appear. But that's the feeling, right? I'm not going to leap because am I supposed to trust you? You're telling me that I'm going to get better and I'm going to feel better, but what am I going to do when I'm alone and I get scared or that feeling comes back, right? And that's the push and pull, and I feel like I'm in control. And then, of course, from the outside, actually, I'm not. Right? I desperately feel not in control. And so I'm desperately holding on to this eating disorder. And I cultivate all this defensive language around it because you don't know how scared I feel when I'm left alone with those feelings. Right?
So the entire belief that I can't recover despite wanting to, that entire belief is ironically just sort of how the anxiety and eating disorder inverts itself to keep itself safe.
It's tricky because the eating disorder, I get a lot more leverage if I talk about the eating disorder as my friend, right? So we acknowledge, instead of talking about control, I talk about anxiety. Instead of talking about the eating disorder as an enemy, I talk about it as a friend because it was a friend, right? And then
have a grieving process for it too.
And then there is, there was a way in which I knew myself and my relationship with life and food and and sometimes I got attention when I was sick, right? I didn't have to particularly ask for it with my words, but I got it in this way. I just want to put a little footnote here that asking for attention or needing attention is not a crime. We all need it. It is important. And when we don't get it, it kind of doesn't charge my battery. So our battery does get charged with other people's um, involvement in our lives, right? And when there is a deficit of that, I will ask for it in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm saying I, as an adult, as a child, we will ask for it. So even as an adult, we do need attention from the people we love in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So asking for attention is not a crime. It is something we need. Like we definitely need air, then we need water, then we need food, and we do need attention.
Right.
So, I mean, the eating disorder has a function in our lives.
Right.
And
yeah.
so
it's adaptive.
So when I cultivate some ease with my anxiety through my therapy, through reestablishing relationships, then I can consider letting go of the eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, there is kind of a personal and an impersonation, right? Like this friend who
Yeah.
sat with me,
Someone on your shoulder.
sat beside me
Yeah.
all these years, and then now there are other people in my life, yes, and this is a very private relationship, right? It's a very private, very personal relationship, and I can slowly allow it to fade away.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
So when it comes to not being able to, feeling like you're not able to get better, feeling like you're the exception, what you're saying is that there's generally some anxiety there. There's a reason, even if you're not conscious of it, there's a reason why you're hanging on to it. So this is why therapy is so important.
To me, it's an expression of isolation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm the only person who's not going to get better. It's an expression of my confusion. I have tried, I haven't found the way. Maybe I haven't been told that recovery is possible in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
And I feel somewhat isolated in this journey, right?
Right. So what you're saying is that you don't uphold the belief that there are people who are treatment resistant or who just
No.
can't get better. Right?
No, I just